Hi, Gary Chillingworth here for Egg Hunter Magazine, Shooting and Country TV. Welcome to Life at the Range. Had a great email from one of our viewers the other day, Adam Johnson. Thank you, Adam. And he asked, well, Gary, can I have a basic instruction or introduction to HFT? You've done videos on what to do and things like that, but what is actually an HFT event and what are the rules? Because I want to come along and shoot HFT, but I'm not exactly sure what I need to know and what I need to do. So here we are today at the absolutely awesome Misfits on a very, very windy day, and I forgot my microphone, so I apologise for it being blowy. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through the basics of HFT. Now, I'm probably going to pass you back to the fat man on the range at home, because I don't want to disturb people while they're shooting a national competition. But let's go out and we'll see a few people, see if we can meet a few friends, a few old friends, and we'll get a few bit of footage of people killing some targets, missing some targets, hopefully not donutting some targets. So off we go, and we'll be back in a sec. Well, thanks to Gary at Lovely Misfits, we're now back at the range, and let's have a talk about HFT, Hunter Field Target. Now, first of all, let's just clear something up. It's called Hunter Field Target. It's not a hunting simulation. HFT is a target sport. You're going to see people out there with target rifles. They've always used target rifles, from the EV2 to the Daystate Mark III, all the way up to the Grand Prix, to Steyrs, to Walthers. It's a target sport. But you can use, obviously, hunting equipment to shooting it. And a lot of people shoot very, very well with hunting style gear. I mean, Simon Van, one of our world champions, used to shoot an HW100 just like this one. And if you're looking to get into HFT, a rifle like this is a perfect place to start. Also things like the BSA Scorpion or the Gold Star or the Air Arms HFT 500 if you want a target rifle, or the S400, which is what a lot of people start with. I certainly started with an Air Arms S400. So what makes a good HFT rifle? Well, again, something like this. It's single shot, because one of the rules in HFT is as you're moving around the course, if you've got a magazine system, you have to remove the magazine in between lanes, because we don't want people walking around with a loaded gun. But if you've got a single shot rifle, that makes life much easier, so that you can load when you're just at the peg. But we're going to come into that a lot later. This is a sub 12 foot-pound rifle. You're not allowed to use FAC rifles within HFT. It's capable, this one is capable of around about 50 shots, because you've got a 30 shot course. And if you have any ceasefires or things like that, you're going to need to fire off at least 8 yards down range, so that if you've got a gun that, you know, you've maybe only filled up so it'll do 31, 32 shots, and you've had 4 or 5 ceasefires, you're now going to run out of air halfway round. So you need a rifle that will give you a good 40 or 50 shots. So I say, this is an HW100. This one is actually in 2.2. And that's another thing. Within HFT, you've got many different classes. You've got the open class, which is what most people who shoot 1.7 PCP shoot in. Then you've got the 2.2 class. Then you've got the Springer class, which I shoot in. Ladies class, veterans class, junior class. And we've also now got the new para class, which is coming in, which is people who shoot from sticks, who are less abled. So it's a great sport for anyone who wants to get into shooting. But the main different type of guns that you'll see out on the HFT course is something like this, a standard hunter class rifle. Again, this one is in 2.2. Then you will have people who will start using things that are a little bit more upscale. Now again, this is another HW100, but this is the KT model. It's got an adjustable cheek piece, an adjustable butt pad, and it's got a hamster, which you see at the front. Now this one's got a bipod on it, which is handy for putting down, but you're not allowed to use that in competition. Now that extra depth will help you when you're taking a standing shot. And you see the way that I put my cheek on the cheek piece, that now puts my eye completely in line with the scope. I can put my elbow in my ribs, the hamster sits there, and I'm fantastically stable. That is why Rifles like this with an adjustable cheek piece, adjustable butt pad, deeper forend are really, really popular in target sports like HFT. So this one is in 177. It's a PCP, so filled up from an air tank. So this would shoot in open class. We then move on to a rifle like this. This is my TX200 Hunter carbine. This is my target rifle. I shoot in the spring gun class, and this is what I use. Absolutely fantastic piece of kit. And springers are becoming more and more popular as we go along. Because the main advantage with a spring gun, apart from the fact that they make you look cool, and and we are the cool kids, you don't need air tanks and things like that to fill them up. They're completely self-contained. Again, 177, shoot in the spring gun class. You can, if you're crazy, shoot a 2.2 Springer, but you're either going to be in the 2.2 class shooting against PCPs, or you're going to be in the spring gun class shooting against 177 spring guns. So feel free to come along and shoot 2.2. You'll get much respect, but you're going to have a difficult day. So they're the type of rifles that we have. We have known people who've come along and shot CO2. They could be a little bit temperature variant, but if that's what you've got and you want to come along and have a go, crack on, and we will be more than happy to see you there. But buy a Springer, it makes sense. Here we have a Springer shooter. All the PCP shooters missed it. And Nick killed it.
Sounded like it went down.
Well done. So, how did that make you feel?
Oh yeah!
You shooting with your daughter today?
I am shooting with my daughter. Second time shooting a national competition.
What's this young lady's name?
Jenny.
Jenny.
Roped into the furnace mill team.
And here we have a man with a 1980s ringtone.
She's doing quite well, soldiering on with it. Action's great, barrel's great, everything about it is great. Just that stop. So now I've got the entails for it. Just shouldered it and it literally just sat straight down.
Oh, what a cracking shot! What gun you got there, Jenny?
S400 carbine.
How long have you been shooting?
Well, I don't, not long.
No?
Since
I
about
just
October last year.
So I take it you regularly beat your dad?
She's
very often, isn't it?
That's the same.
Okay, well I'll tell you what, we'll leave Jenny alone because I think she's a bit embarrassed about someone pointing a camera in her face. So
I can't believe she's embarrassed about someone with a camera. She's always on that TikTok.
in that TikTok.
Yeah,
TikTok.
you're embarrassing, so.
Love my child.
Is the fruit of your loins. The proof that you and her mother want. No, but okay, we will see you all in a little while.
We did it twice. We've got 2 kids.
Yeah, no.
What I mean.
Okay, so you've picked your rifle, you know what you want to shoot, and now it's time to pick your scope for HFT. So what do you go for? Picking a scope is like, if you're a motorcyclist, it's like picking a crash helmet. You've either got an Arai head, or you've got a Shoei head, or an AGC head. You have to pick a scope that's right for you. What's right for me might not be right for you. What I find really clear for my eyes might not be good for you. But that's, you pay your money, you take your choice. But we can look at a few basics. The most important thing in HFT is depth of field. Now, in field target, you're allowed to adjust your scope. In HFT, once you've taken your first shot, you are not allowed to touch anything on your scope. You can't change the magnification, the parallax, anything at all. So what you need to be able to do is see all your targets from 8 to 45 yards. Now, if you go out and spend £2,000 on a March, which are fantastic scopes, you're still not going to be crystal clear from 8 to 45 yards. There'll be blur there. But you can get the same sort of quality, the same sort of blur with something like, something like the Optisan CP10x32. Actually, to be honest with you, this Discovery VT2 is a great budget scope. It's actually got really clear glass. Some of the Hawks are fantastic. The Sidewinders. On my, we'll go to my CP because that's the scope that I know more than anything else. To be honest with you, I don't shoot that Discovery very often, but this is my competition scope. It's just on this gun for today. Now, on this scope, it has a 32mm objective lens. Now, you can see some scopes we've got like huge, great big 56, 50mm objective lenses, but they're going to give you a narrower depth of field. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, basically, when I've got this rifle set up, or the scope set up with a 26-yard parallax on the left-hand side, what parallax means is that when you put your eye up against the scope, if you move your head left and right, you at 40 yards, you might see the kill zone move. If you set the parallax at 26 yards, it adjusts for that. And you can, no matter how much you move your head, if you look at a target at 26 yards, those crosshairs won't move. So you need to set like a mid-range parallax. But when I look through this, my 8 yards are really quite blurry. So what I'll have to do is draw my head back and I'll be able to see the target. But as I look through it, 8 yards, blurry, 9, 10, 11, 12, a little less blurry. By the time I get to 13 yards, it starts to get nice and clear. I'm then clear all the way through to about 40 yards where I can make out the pellet strikes and I can see the kill zones with ease. And then when I go beyond 40 yards, I start getting some more blur again. So at 45, again, it's quite blurry. Now that's really handy sometimes because I look through my scope, I think, oh, it's about 40 yards. Look at it, I can't make out the pellet strikes on the plate. Oh, that's got to be nearer 45. But that can catch you out because in a dark wood, you're going to get more blur than on a bright sunny day. That's where experience comes in. So when you buy a scope, you go to the gun shop, you need to wind it up to 10 times magnification, pick out a mark that's 8 yards, look at that, look at that, look at that, and try and look from 8 to 45 yards and see if you could make out pellet strikes or whatever it is you're looking at. Look for that kind of clarity. Because if you get a scope and you look through it and you can't make out the kill zones at 12 yards, how are you going to kill anything? The scope is more important than the gun. And I stand by that. Most modern air rifles are capable of outshooting all of us. Where you'll get your points is by getting the right scope for your eyes. I shoot two. I've got this, the CP10x32. I've also got the Optisan. Sorry, this is by Optisan. I've also got the EVX 10x44, 10x42. Some of the Hawk glass is absolutely lovely. There are plenty of great scopes out there, and I've done some videos, so check those out about buying different scopes. But you've got to be able to see from 8 to 45 yards. If you've got a scope that you're really struggling with, turn the magnification down. That will always increase your depth of field. In competition, maximum magnification you can have is 12 yards. Is 12 times. Some of these have got a pig's ear on the back. Now, which is just this bit of rubber, so that when you put it up against your eye, it cuts out all the sun and it helps to put your eye directly center to the scope. And that's, another really important thing, that when you're looking through the scope, you've got to make sure that your eye is in the same position every single time. So that's choosing your scope. So I've done plenty of videos, which I'm going to link in the description below, about buying scopes or, about getting scopes, picking the right one for you. And hopefully that will help. But scope's really important. Part of shooting HFT is obviously the fun and friendship of the people you're around. But we also have rules. We have the Chrono tent in the background. And we've gone through that in the past. But if you ever thought about having a go at HFT, please come and have a go. It's a really fun thing to do. It's great for family and friends, and it's really enjoyable, and gets you out in the fresh air, and you get to shoot some tin chickens, and it's absolutely wonderful. But I'm going to pass you back to the fat man on the sorry, Fat Man on the range, and he's going to go through the rules with you, because it's a bit windy here and we don't really want to be bothering the people who are actually shooting, because you know they're here to compete for, you know, for a trophy. And you know, it's one of the things. I shot like an absolute spanner today though, so there you go, it's one of those things. So back to the Fat Man. Okay, so let's go over some basic rules of HFT. What you can do, what you can't do. We've looked at scopes, we've looked at guns, so now let's have a quick look at what a rifle, about what you can and can't do. Now, as you can see here, this rifle is quite deep in the fore end. The maximum depth you're allowed is from the center of the barrel to the lowest point of the stock is 150 millimeters. So from there to the bottom of the hamster. Also, as you can see on the back here, you've got an adjustable butt pad. Now, what most shooters do is they lay on the ground with that butt pad rested on the deck. And that gives you a huge amount of stability. What you can't do is have this butt pad up high and then rest this piece of the wood or anything beyond here on the ground. The only part that's allowed to touch the deck is the very, very back part of the rifle. Now, also, there is a rule that some of these targets, I'm going to put up a picture here of a butt pad. Now, you'll see that on this butt pad, you've got a flat part and you've got two paddles. The maximum depth, sorry, the maximum length of the paddles on the top and the bottom is 2¼ inches. That means we can't have things like they have in FT, which are the butt hooks, which will massively sit underneath your arm for you to grip or over the top of the shoulder. So the maximum length of the paddles, measured from the flat to the top of the paddle, is 2¼ inches. Now, when you're out shooting and you're coming up to the firing line, and let's say that this is the firing line in front of you, you take your rifle and it's time to load. What we want you to do is to come up, point the rifle over the firing line, load your pellet, and then you can fire. What some people occasionally do is they come up to the firing line, they load, they're looking at the target, they close, they go to take the thing, and they've just fired. And they've fired along the firing line. Now, I've not known this to happen for a long, long time. But if you do that, and there's someone standing to your left-hand side, they're going to have a bad day. So you always load with the rifle pointing over the firing line. Now, obviously, we remove, just put that down. Now, there's another rule that comes up quite a lot, which I get some abuse for, is using your scope as a carry handle. Now, this is something that we want to address. What we don't want is people walking around the course like that. That is using your scope as a carry handle. That is not appreciated. You will get shouted at, and rightfully so. However, if your gun bag is pointing over the firing line and you've come up, you bend down and you pick up like that and you immediately transition into your hand, that is safe. It's not going to affect the scope. If you've got decent mounts, decent scope, decent gun, it's not going to affect your zero, and you're just lifting it out the bag. But we don't want people doing that, because you're essentially flagging people with your rifle, and people get very upset when you point a rifle at them. So lifting out your bag is fine, but don't walk around the course like that. It really upsets people. The other thing that's really important, if you shoot powder burners, they will always teach you to keep the muzzle up. That's because if you have a negligent discharge, if your rifle goes off and you're pointing at the deck, it hits a stone, it'll come back and hit you in the legs, whatever, it could be fatal. Whereas if it goes up in the air, if it goes directly up, it shouldn't be too bad when it comes down. Air rifles, if you're carrying like that, you'll shoot someone in the eye, you know, could be lethal. Whereas if you shoot into the ground, the chance of it ricocheting and having enough velocity to actually hurt somebody is fairly minimal. So whenever you're moving about the course, obviously keep your gun unloaded, but always keep your gun muzzle down until it is time to shoot. And then once you're shot, muzzle down again. It's, you know, finger off the trigger, muzzle down. Throw your microphone on the floor, which is always a good idea. Finger off the trigger, muzzle down, only put your finger on the trigger when it's time to shoot, and you'll have a much better day. Also, when you're raising up, if you're automatically going like that, chances are at some point you're going to come up and you're going to fire and you're going to lose a point and you're going to upset the people around you. So finger off the trigger, keep it up there until you're on the target, move down, fire. Obviously keep the rifle unloaded between lanes. If you've got a magazine, remove the magazine when you're moving around the course. If you've got a fixed magazine system, unfortunately you're going to have to only load one shot at a time. Okay, another rule we have for HFT is the whistle or klaxon system. Very simple. If you're shooting and you hear a single long blast on a whistle, that means cease fire. You're going to need to fire off at least 8 yards down range. If you hear a long blast and there are still people shooting, it's perfectly acceptable to say, we're on a ceasefire. When they want shooting to start again, you'll get 2 long blasts on the whistle, which means good to go. At the end of a competition, once everybody has finished shooting, you'll have 3 long blasts, and that means end of competition. General rule of thumb, if you're not sure, stop shooting, call for a marshal, and seek clarification. But most people will be able to guide you with the whistles, but keep your eyes listened out. That is why it is strictly forbidden to be wearing headphones and things like that when you're shooting, because you might not hear a whistle, you might not hear a safety instruction. So for all you youngsters out there listening to your jams, yeah, I won't do that again. No headphones when you're shooting, I'm afraid. So that's the whistles. Okay, so scoring in HFT. Scoring is really simple. If you shoot the target and knock it over, you score 2 points. If you shoot the target and hit a plate, you score 1 point. If you shoot at the target and you miss everything, you score 0, which we refer to in the trade as a donut. Donuts. As a donut. Donuts. Sorry, really must stop doing that. Really annoying, but they do happen, they will happen, and yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah. Cool setters like to set like undulations and things that catch the pellet as the way through, and on windy days you'll often hear the pellets flying past the targets and people laughing and cursing and things like that. If you get a donut, take it on the chin. Got a donut. When other people are shooting, listen. Sometimes when you're shooting a really loud gun, you can't hear if it's hit the plate. So if you've shot it, you think you've had a donut, look at your shooting partners and say, did you hear anything? And they'll be honest with you. If there's, you know, they'll say, yeah, I think I heard something, or I hit a plate or whatever. You know, be guided by them. Donuts happen, it's part of the sport. Also with the cards, it's really important. Maybe not so much in club competition, but certainly in like big competitions, nationals, Southern Hunters, Midland Hunters, Worlds, that mistakes happen on a card. Someone will put you down for a 2 instead of a 1, or someone will put you down for a 1 instead of a 2. There's always marshals knocking around in high vises. When you've realised there's been a mistake, speak to your shooting partner and say, oi, you put me down for a 2 there, I only got a 1. And they'll go, oh, sorry, mate, I do apologise. Call a marshal over, he'll amend it, he'll initial it, he'll sign it on the back. So that way, when it goes through to vetting at the end of the course, you're not going to get marked down. Because if you put in a card that has been amended or that is wrong, and you've just scratched out the 1 and put a 2 in, and not had it initialed, you're just going to get a 0. So it's really important to have your cards amended and verified by the marshals. Also, at the end of the day, tot it up, sign it, hand it in as quickly as you can, so that the people who are doing the counting up the scores can get it all sorted. So that'll be really is appreciated. So yeah, so just be careful with your cards. Also, if you can, if it's really raining, try and keep them in your bag because they get very sodden and manky very, very quickly. Okay, here we have Megan and Chris Cundy. Just handing over a pellet, handing over her cards, showing Chris the pellet. Chris is happy. He's slightly nervous as this is one of the guns he's built and he's worried it'll be going over power.
It's a day state. Don't touch day state.
Okay, so it's important that he lines up both left and right and up and down.
Yeah. You ready? Go for it. 759.
He's gone through at 759 feet per second. Now, Megan, is that roughly the sort of speed you would be expecting for the gun to be going through at?
Yes.
So you're all happy?
All happy.
Chris will now sign the card and say that he's happy. Chris is always happy. Okay, this is Chris. He is the sexiest man on the HFT circuit.
I'd say second sexiest.
No? Only second? What, Kieran is the first?
Yeah, of course he is.
That's understandable. Okay, thank you very much, and I will leave you to it. Now, some people have asked, what pellets do you use for HFT? Well, there are many different manufacturers. AA Fields, JSB, QYS. There are other people, Expresses and Mozzies, and there's lots of different types. But as a general rule of thumb, we all use a Diablo style pellet. That's one with a domed head and some skirts. Not ones with slots cut in the top or anything like that. I'm sure they have their uses, but in target competition, we use a standard Diablo pellet. Now on the back of your pellet tin, you'll have sizes 451, 452, 453 and 177, obviously bigger in 22. And then you'll have a batch number at the top. Now, when you start getting into HFT more and more, you will find that rifles like a particular type of pellet. My spring gun loves this TX200 loves 453s, hates 452s, which is the head size. My other TX loves 452s, is a shotgun with 453s. I have a tendency to go out. This is the way I do it. I'll buy a sleeve of pellets from someone like Intershoot. I'll try them. If they're great, I'll go and try and buy as many as I can. If my gun doesn't like them, I will keep a tin. I'll speak to my friends. They'll try them in their guns. If their guns like them, they'll usually buy them from me. We have a tendency to pass pellets around. But finding a good batch of pellets is so important for your gun. So pellet testing is something you need to do. And we're actually going to do a proper video on pellet testing at some point in the future. So stick with Diablos, AA Fields, JSBs, QYS, about 8.44 grain. If you're a target shooter in 2.2, go with like the Jumbo RS 13 grains or the 16 grains AA Fields. You'll be absolutely fine. It's a great place to start as you're learning. The other thing that you'll always see people shoot with or have is a good old shooting glove. What the shooting glove does is that when you're grabbing the peg, it gives you a nice stable place to rest your rifle on with a nice bit of grip. Keeps your hands warm in the winter, and it takes the pulse out, because sometimes when you're laying there and you've got a pulse, you've got a vein that goes through there, you'll actually feel the rifle bumping because of the pulse, and this glove completely removes that. They're about £30. This is the old Anschutz 109. You can't get these anymore, but an Anschutz 110, it's the identical glove, it's just in red and black as opposed to yellow and black. But a glove is something that I would strongly recommend and that everybody needs. Hi, Gary here in the future. Right, I'm editing the video and it's coming in at something like an hour. And we had a whole 15-minute section on beanbags. Well, considering I've done I've done videos on supported shots and unsupported shots, we're not going to put stuff about beanbags and kneeling rules in this video, but I'll put a link in the description below and you can go and watch the full video, which is considerably better than the one that I've just filmed, which, let's be honest with you, was a bunch of pants. So go and watch the proper video, because that also helps with our algorithm. So hopefully we'll make this video a little bit shorter. Cheers. Now back to the Fat Man. The other thing you will see on a lot of competitions is this, the shooting mat. Now this shooting mat is absolutely fantastic. It's made by Sure Shot, really happy with it. It's actually a fairly new one, this, that I've just started to use. And what the mats are great for is they insulate you from the ground, which is great when it's cold and wet or if it's really dusty. But there are a couple of rules with shooting mats. Feel free to use them, they're absolutely great, but you can't use them to give you an advantage. The main thing that we've seen some people do is they take their shooting mat and they fold it up like that, and they use it to give themselves extra height at the peg. That can't be done. So a mat can be laid out, can be laid on, but it's not there to give you an advantage when you're shooting. It's also perfectly acceptable to share each other's mats unless COVID restrictions tell you otherwise. The other really important thing to do is to know your ranges, to know what the rules are. So we're going to put up a bit in the description which will actually give you the basic information, but this is it. A 15mm target for UKAHFT can be between 13 and 25 yards. A 20mm target can be between 8 and 30 yards. A 25mm target can be between 8 and 40 yards. A 30mm target can be between 8 and 40 yards. And a 35mm target can be between 8 and 45 yards. You do also occasionally have a 40mm target, which again can be between 8 and 45 yards. If you're shooting a supported shot, if it is a kneel or stand and it is a 35mm kill, 8 and 40 yards. If it is a 25mm kill, it can be between 8 and 30 yards. If you are shooting a stand only target, 25mm, that can be 8 to 30 yards, and a stand only 35mm kill can be between 8 and 35 yards. A unsupported kneeler has got to be a 35mm size target, and that can go out to 35 yards. And an unsupported stander, again, has to be a 35mm target, and again, that can be only out to 35 yards. They are the basic ranges that you need. So we have some rules when we're at the peg. Now this is what we call the peg. It's a piece of wood that's attached to the ground. And when you come up to shoot, you walk up to it, you put the rifle in your shoulder, and part of your body or the rifle must be touching the peg. As you can see here, we've got the gun touching it on the left. Perfectly legal. Let's say though, we want to shoot round the target. We want to come off the peg, put our elbow on the peg, spider hand, rifle is on the, just behind the watch. And there you go, we've got a nice target, we've got a nice safe position because our elbow is touching the target. Some people like to, if they're shooting elevated target, rest their rifle on top of the peg. As long as that can be done safely, that's absolutely fine. The other rule you need to remember when you're at the peg is the pistol grip. That cannot touch the ground. So if you're using that for stability, that's not allowed. There's always got to be a physical gap below the pistol grip. So that's predominantly just shooting at the peg. You're allowed to come off, you're allowed to go on top, but you just got to be touching the peg. And that goes for standers, kneelers and prone. Well, thank you for joining us at the range today. I really hope that this introduction to HFT has helped you. A couple more bits, which are basic etiquette. Just wait for the tractor to go past. Basic etiquette is obviously don't talk when your partners are shooting. Don't give them incorrect information. If you've shot the target, your pellet's gone straight, go, yeah, it took me half a ton of wind. Yeah, don't do that. It's not nice. You know, unless it's certain people, then we'll allow it. When you've shot the target and you've killed it, pull it up. What I always like to do is sometimes you'll come up to a target where the target is absolutely battered and it's really difficult to see the kill. If you shot it and you've fallen over, it's really nice to say to your shooting partner, do you want me to leave the target down so that when they reset it, they can see where the kill zone is? It's just a courtesy thing. But that's predominantly it. HFT, the best way to learn HFT is go out there and do it. Find yourself a club, get out there, meet some people, shoot some targets, miss a ton of targets, have some fun, and people there will guide you. Every course has got marshals. If you don't know what you're doing, if you're really nervous, speak to the people when you're booking in and they will put you with an experienced shooter who will show you what to do. That's how I learned. That's how we all learn. And all we want is for you to come, shoot, have a great day shooting, enjoy yourself, be safe, and take part in the sport that we all love. We're there to help you. We're there to guide you. Just come along and have a go. As ever, thanks so much. Please like, share, and subscribe. It really is appreciated. And that we'll see you all again in a couple of weeks with a next incomprehensible video. And have a wonderful time. The sun is out, COVID is behind us, we're all shooting again. Life is good. Take care of yourselves. Ta-da.